Hello everybody, it's Wyvern here with another game from Shadow Online Gaming's YouTubers Tourney. And this time around, it is from the second group stage on the map, Kelpin Coldust squaring off against Turin. And this is definitely looking to be a bit of a challenging one because we picked Lizardmen and he chose Dark Elves, which is traditionally a little bit of a toughie. And do keep in mind that if you're looking to cheese your way to victory in this matchup, it can be you can't bring, say, double Slan. That's illegal in tournaments. You can only bring one, so you can't exactly gimmick your way through with Lord Croak and Mazdamundi Death Balls. So regardless, going into this composition, Kelpin Coldust, definitely a very small, compact map, and can be good for Lizardmen. Lizardmen generally a very rushy, aggressive faction. That said, this build, not necessarily the rushiest of compositions. For my Lord, I'm running with the Mazdamundi on a toilet seat. I didn't bother with Zlok. I figured Zlok is a really easy target for shooting. Granted, he does have 27% missile resist when you get your item, when you have your Sunburst Standard of Exoatl. But quite frankly, if your opponent decided to bring Dark Shards, or in this case, as Turin did, Shades, then that's not going to last you very long. Besides that, we do have the Net of Mintok, though, to try to control the battle a little bit. Harmonic Convergence, Curse of the Midnight Wind to debuff enemy troops, as well as Apotheosis. We also have the Shield of the Old Ones, Bound Banishment, as well as Bound Ruination of Cities. So potentially quite a lot of damage, plus that melee defense buff, which will be buffing our Star Chamber Guardians quite a bit, making them do quite a bit more damage. Or sorry, making them endure quite a bit better against damage. With 60 melee defense, they are definitely not to be trifled with. It could also help our Skink Boys a little bit. So you can see these guys are up to like 34 melee defense with Mazdamundi sitting nearby. Granted, they also have a Chevron buffing that up. Now in the skies, we do have two Skink Chiefs. I do think these guys are decent in the matchup because they're good for pressuring, say, Marathi, and that's who Turin happened to have brought. So hopefully these guys can snipe her down or whittle her down and do us proud. Besides that, there are 3 units of Skink cohorts with Javelins, providing support for the flanks and the front line here. And for our backline, it's a bit of a mixed bag. We do have Cold One Spear Riders over here. We had some leftover points and got some Feral Cold Ones. The Regiment of Renowned Salamander hunting back the Umbral Tide over here. We do have more Cold One Spear Riders and an Ancient Salamander. A unit I don't use too often, but definitely can be very potent. And against Dark Elves who don't have too much long range shooting, can be very, very powerful. Can really elite them. And finally, one more unit of Cold One Spear Riders out here on the flank. So definitely potential to surround and pound Turin's backlines. Now what has Turin gone with? Well, obviously Marathi. We can see Mama Marathi floating up here above the battlefield, and she is promising to be quite a pain because we don't really have much to shut her down with. We do have the two Skink Chiefs, but she can basically sit up in the air, cackling like mad, and spam spells. Though, fortunately, she doesn't have too much in the way of those. Soul Stealer, though, big nuisance. She does also have Enchanting Beauty and Hard Render and Dark Sword, which is, you know, 2 pretty significant melee defense and attack debuffs. Now for his front line, he has gone with Dread Spear, so a very budget option. Perhaps anticipating Croak and not wanting to get caught up in that. Otherwise, just a decent holding force. Like, honestly, if you're relying on Shades like this and relying on Heavy Cav a lot, then obviously you don't really have the money to spend. And Dread Spears are your better budget options because Bleak Swords are still going to get butchered by Saurus and the more expensive stuff, and they cannot hold at all against big monsters. Now, Besides the Dread Spears, we do have a firing line of Shades. So 3 units of Vanilla Shades, most likely to conserve points. These guys will be able to butcher any of my big targets if they get a beat on them. And if they get into melee, they should definitely be able to beat down the Skinks. And obviously hold off the Cold One Spear Riders for quite a bit, because Cold One Spear Riders do not have the best melee stats. These guys are actually Chevron up a little bit, so not the best representation. Do we have any ones that are not? No, we don't. They're all Chevron up. But either way, Cold One Spear Riders, not the best of melee stats. Definitely can be bogged down for quite a while. Shades have much better melee attack and defense at 40 and 32. Behind that, we do have the Sisters of the Sing Doom to provide fear, terror, as well as the Snare, of course, because they call it Rampage. We do have a Bolt Thrower on the high ground. This is a bit of an awkward position because it doesn't really let you get too many good shots sometimes on this map. And then two Cold One Knights. And these guys, of course, are a solid counter to Cold One Spear Riders and Lizardmen Large. And finally, we do have Slanesh's Harvesters, the Regiment of Doomfire Warlocks. These guys will drop another Soul Stealer and have a Word of Pain. And against most of my units here, except the Star Chamber Guardians, they are pretty resilient. Over here, you can see the Shades are already unloading on my Umbral Tide because I was very bad about pushing these guys forward. I really should have hesitated more and kept my infantry back, and did not. So getting pounded here. Skink Cohort immediately starts buckling, but, you know, at least the Sergeant Guardians get in here, and they're going to start doing some damage. The Cold One Knights are not going to hold up to these guys at all, and you can always see they're falling apart. My Cold One Spears, in the meantime, are going to throw themselves into the fray, but down goes the Curse of the Midnight Wind, debuffing all these enemy troops, making them a lot more vulnerable and a lot less effective at doing damage. So definitely a bit of a win. Unfortunately, these Shades are just deleting the Cold One Spear Riders, and we're not really able to get into the cookie jar here. We are trying to flank around with our Feral Cold Ones, with our Cold One Spear Riders, but Turin is pretty wise to that, and he does move to intercept. Over here, the Cold One Spear Riders do try to interdict, and they are the Cold One Knights, and they do get in on top of the Ancient Salamander. But fortunately, we do have a horde of skink cohorts to block them off, as well as the Umbral Tide. And the Umbral Tide is going to delete these guys. It is going to eat them for lunch. And you can see these Cold One Knights are immediately forced to pull off. They lose almost all their models, or half their models, and they are really forced back the whole way. Now you can see here a Soul Stealer going down over here. That's Screech, signifying doom for these poor lizards. The Feral Cold Ones rampage into oblivion, and I wasn't quick enough to get a Cold Blooded off. Apotheosis does go down here, healing the Star Chamber Guardians, who are just tearing their way through these Dread Spears. And unfortunately, both of our magic casts, both our Banishment as well as our Ruination of Cities, did not really do much to these Shades. It killed a few models, did some damage, but nothing too crazy. And so Turin is just merrily chipping away at my Star Chamber Guardians. And we do try to get in there with our Cold One Spear Riders, getting in on the weakened unit in the back, but in come the Sisters of the Singing Doom. I try to pull away, but too little, too late. And we are about to get penned in by these Cold One Knights anyway, so we're going to try to get a last charge in before we get rampaged. Now here I should have really hit these guys with a Cold Blooded, but I do not, so that's a big misplay. Harmonic Convergence does go down, though, and these Cold One Knights are having a bad time of it. And you can see, if we look at the balance of power, right now it still hinges dead center. Certainly we are not winning by any stretch of the imagination, but, you know, we're holding our own, and Turin has gotten bogged down, but he does still have that firing line of Shades, which can potentially be devastating. In the meantime, the Salamanders are chipping away, trying to knock out these Cold One Knights, as well as the Slaash Harvesters, and doing a relatively decent job of it. You can see these guys now 60 models, these guys still down to 10. Over here, the Cold One Knights losing more models because the Ancient Salamander is taking his pot shots in there. And Turin's Cav Core is basically annihilated, so is mine. We basically traded Cav for Cav. And, yeah, rough stuff. Meantime, these Shades do push forward, and Umbral Tide is getting gunned down, and this was a huge misplay. I should have been pulling these guys back ages ago. They're nippy, they're fast, they can easily be pulled away, and I'm losing them here in a horrible fashion. And, in fact, they're going to rampage here, so very frustrating stuff, and they are going to YOLO to their deaths. So definitely not what I wanted to see, and not what I do much about. Not entirely sure if you want to use Cold Blooded, but they do route there. Over here, the Shades do also get routed, I believe. Or no, they hold on because they're Dark Elves, and Dark Elves never route. Now, Star Chamber Guardians here, getting a shield only on 800 HP, but we do manage to sort of keep them in the fray. Mazdamunni trying to pull back and reorganize. Well, in the meantime, the Skink Chief's still chipping away at Marathian. They are doing some decent damage, but not nearly enough. Over here, we do have some good damage. The Reaper Bolt Thrower was routed off earlier, but has decided to return. Marathi's still being chipped down, but yeah, now the Shades are going to start unloading on my Skink Chiefs, and this is going to be a bit of a pain. Mazdamundi and the Ancient Salamander here are taking quite a bit of hurt. This last bastion of Skinks is over here doing their very best. But Mazdamundi, honestly, versus a handful of Cold One Knights, might be able to pull it off. But unfortunately now, the Ancient Salamander has broken, so this is a huge problem. That I've allowed this guy to get routed. Soul Stealer goes down and is going to melt Mazdamundi even further. He's not going to be able to stick around for long. Spears are melting him very, very quickly. We do get another banishment here on these Shades, doing quite a bit of work. Just rampages through the Cold One Knights, through these Shades. Finally does a bit of killing, but we really needed this earlier. So, oh well. These guys at this point dying. You can see the bounce power shifting decisively in Turin's favor. He's doing some last cleanup on these Star Chamber Guardians here. Murdering Mazdamundi. We do manage to rally here, drop Cold Blooded on the Ancient Salamander. And getting back into the fray. He's going to start spitting those gobbets of fire, hopefully, soon. So, no, he seems to be considering whether or not he should. That is kind of the case sometimes with these monsters. He does spit one over here, knocking down a bunch of these spears, doing quite a bit of damage. We're actually going to charge him in here, trying to bog down my opponent, but he actually kind of blocks up Mazdamundi more than helping. We're trying to bog down these troops. I probably should have swept down from on high with the Skink Chiefs, but did not. And unfortunately, this is going to be it, because Mazdamundi is about to go down. Our Skink cohorts here are basically gone. The Shades unloading on the Skink Chief. Mazdamundi dies, and with that, leadership is going to tank into the gutter, though there really isn't much left. Our Skink Chiefs, you know, they are still in decent shape. Unfortunately, this guy's getting staggered by the Shades, which is making it very difficult to dodge the spell coming in, the Doom Bolt. We do try to juke, but unfortunately we shatter before then, and game is called. So, definitely a very close game. Well played to Turin. Got outplayed pretty handily, but it was a tight fight. I do believe it came pretty damn close. Definitely some of the misplays there that I made. Well, obviously letting the Umbral Tide get caught out way prematurely was a really big misplay. Perhaps throwing away my Cold One Spears on the flanks was also a bit of a problem. I could have really left Mazdamundi and the block of Temple Guards sitting in the middle for a bit, and probably gotten away with it. Instead, I let 2 Cold One Spear Riders get caught out on the flank, or 1 in the center, counting Turin's Cold One Knights, which it's okay, it was at least a trade. But on the flanks, I lost Cold One Spears for basically nothing. And that was a huge misplay. The other unit of Cold One Spears actually got a lot of value. They shut down the Reaper Bolt Thrower, shut down some of the Shades for a bit, destroyed what was left of one of the Cold One Knights. Definitely a great job. Ancient Salamander and the Umbral Tide also did a good job. And in hindsight, I feel like maybe my build should have even been centered around these guys. I should have maybe brought like an extra Ancient Salamander, and maybe like an extra Salamander hunting pack. And ditched the Cold One Spears maybe, just gone for more like Feral Cold Ones, or more, or Saurus for example, or something like that to absorb the flank charges, and just try to go a bit wider. The King Chiefs also kind of let me down. I was definitely hoping that they would snipe out Marathi, but through a lot of use of Soul Stealer, Turin was just kind of able to tank through it and get by. On Turin's end of the battle, I do think that by and large there wasn't much misplay to be noted. I do think the positioning on the Reaper Bolt Throw was a little awkward. I don't think it got a lot of value early on in the game, because on high ground, obviously the Bolt Thrower doesn't have as flat of an arc as a cannon, but it still struggles to get good shots off from that high ground position. And I do think that Turin probably picked that position because it's safe. It's much easier to defend because obviously your front is protected by sheer cliff, but at the same time I do think it limits the actual usefulness of your artillery piece. And that's just not necessarily the best thing. But either way, those are my 2 cents. I do hope you guys enjoyed this video. Hope you found it entertaining and fun. If you did, be sure to leave a like, subscribe, share, hit that notification button. If you have any comments, critiques, questions, as usual, don't hesitate to put them down below. I'm always trying to respond as quick as I can. And with that done, be sure to check out Turin at his channel. I will be leaving a link down below. Also be sure to check out Shadow Online Gaming, who has been hosting this tournament, and see their perspectives and enjoy the battles there as well. So hope you guys enjoyed, and I will see you all in the next one. Wyvern out.